The official timeline of human civilization in the Americas goes like this. The first humans arrived in North America approximately 13,000 years ago, crossing a land bridge from Asia during the last ice age. They were hunter-gatherers. They spread slowly southward. They built their first complex societies around 3,000 years ago. That is the textbook version. Here is what the physical evidence says. In Chile, archaeologists found a settlement dated to 14,800 years ago, on a continent humans weren't supposed to have reached yet. In California, bones dated to 130,000 years ago show clear evidence of having been processed by human tools. In Mexico, footprints preserved in volcanic ash date to 21,000 years ago, during the height of the Ice Age, when the land bridge was supposedly impassable. The textbook version and the physical evidence are not compatible. Today, 8 archaeological discoveries in the Americas that scientists cannot fully explain, and that collectively suggest the history of human civilization on this continent is far older, far more complex, and far more extraordinary than anything we were taught. We start with the merely impossible. We end with something that was abandoned for reasons nobody has ever adequately explained and rebuilt on a scale that should have required a civilization that didn't officially exist yet. 1977, southern Chile. A cattle farmer discovers unusual bones eroding from a stream bank. Archaeologist Tom Dillahay is called in. He begins excavating and keeps excavating. For the next decade, what emerges from the peat bog is extraordinary. Monte Verde, a campsite with the remains of wooden structures, animal hides, food remnants, stone tools, even traces of medicinal plants. All of it preserved in remarkable condition by the waterlogged peat. 14,800 years ago, southern Chile, a campsite with wooden structures and medicinal plants on a continent where humans supposedly hadn't arrived yet. The Clovis first model, the dominant theory of American prehistory for 60 years, collapsed almost immediately when Monte Verde was accepted by the archaeological mainstream in 1997. The question that replaced it has still not been fully answered. If they didn't cross the land bridge, how did they get here? And when did the real migration begin? The Soup Valley, northern coast of Peru, approximately 200 kilometers north of Lima. For decades, the mounds in this valley were dismissed as natural hills, too regular to look at closely, too inconvenient to excavate. Then in 1994, archaeologist Ruth Shady Solis begins a systematic excavation. What she uncovers stuns the archaeological world. Caral, a city 5,000 years old, with 6 large platform mounds, the largest rising 18 meters, sunken circular plazas, residential complexes, storage facilities, a system of aqueducts supplying fresh water, an amphitheater with acoustics so precise that sound from the stage reaches every part of the seating area equally. 3000 BCE, a city of thousands, contemporary with Egypt, on the coast of Peru. With an amphitheater, with aqueducts, with planned architecture. And no weapons, no walls, no evidence of a single act of organized violence in 1,000 years of occupation. Scientists still don't fully understand how Caral organized its labor force without evidence of a coercive political structure, how it sustained its population without evidence of significant agriculture in the immediate vicinity, and why, after 1,000 years, it was simply abandoned. No conquest, no disaster, no clear cause. The city was abandoned and then forgotten for 5,000 years. The confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Modern-day Illinois, year 1050 CE. The city is at its peak. Population between 10,000 and 20,000 people, making it larger than London. At the same period in history. Cahokia, the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico, its central monument, Monk's Mound, is the 3rd largest pyramid in the world by volume, larger than the Pyramid of the Moon at Teotihuacan. Built from 22 million cubic feet of hand-carried earth over approximately 300 years, 20,000 people, 120 mounds, astronomical alignments, solar calendars, larger than contemporary London. and by 1350 CE to 300 years after its peak, completely empty. The proposed explanations include climate change, deforestation, political collapse, and disease. None of them fully account for the speed and completeness of the abandonment. A city of 20,000 people does not simply leave, without war, without disaster, without leaving a clear record of why. Scientists still don't fully understand what caused Cahokia's collapse, or where its population went, or why the sophisticated astronomical and urban knowledge of its builders left no successor civilization. Northeast Louisiana, 1,600 years before the Roman Empire, a civilization with no agriculture, no domesticated animals, no metal tools, no pottery in the early phases, and yet they built something that required engineering precision, long-distance trade networks, and social organization on a scale that archaeologists are still struggling to explain. Poverty Point, 6 concentric C-shaped ridges of earth, each ridge several meters high and hundreds of meters long. A central mound rising 21 meters. The entire complex spanning approximately 2 kilometers to 138,000 cubic meters of earth. In 90 days, by hunter-gatherers. With trade goods from the Great Lakes, the Rocky Mountains, and the Gulf Coast simultaneously. No agriculture, no cities, no metal. But a trade network spanning half a continent and the engineering capacity to build one of the largest earthworks in North America in 90 days. No one can explain exactly how a hunter-gatherer society organized the labor force, the supply chains, and the engineering knowledge this construction required, or what motivated them to build it. Southern Peru, the Nazca Desert, a plateau so dry that almost nothing changes here over thousands of years. Etched into the surface, visible only in full from the air, hundreds of geoglyphs, animals, plants, geometric lines, some running perfectly straight for up to 50 kilometers. Nazca lines, created between 500 BCE and 500 CE by the Nazca civilization, and still, after over a century of study, not fully explained. 0.1 degrees of deviation, over 50 kilometers, without GPS, without aircraft, without any elevated position from which to verify the work. The Nazca people created art requiring aerial perspective, without any known means of achieving that perspective. Whatever function the lines served, the level of geometric precision they achieved is not consistent with the technology we believe they possessed. Scientists still don't fully understand why the Nazca created figures visible only from altitude, or what surveying method produced straight lines with sub-degree deviation across 50 kilometers. After 100 years of study, the purpose of the Nazca lines remains genuinely contested in academic literature. 1992, San Diego, California. Construction workers are excavating a highway off-ramp. They unearth bones. The bones are turned over to the San Diego Natural History Museum, where they sit for 24 years. Then in 2016, a team of researchers reanalyzes the bones. Using modern dating techniques, their findings, published in the journal Nature in 2017, are so controversial that the scientific community has not yet settled on how to respond. 130,000 years ago, California, bones processed with tools. At 130,000 years ago, our species was approximately 170,000 years old. We were in Africa. The last ice age had not yet peaked. The Americas were a continent we had no known means of reaching, and yet the bones say otherwise. The scientific debate around the Cerutti Mastodon site has not been resolved. The bone breakage patterns have both supporters and critics in the mainstream archaeological literature. No stone tools have been found at the site. No additional evidence of this extreme antiquity has been confirmed, but the uranium-thorium dating has not been successfully challenged. 130,000 years, and the bones say someone was there. Discovery 2. The pre-Columbian cocaine. 1992, Munich. A team of German researchers led by toxicologist Svetlana Balabanova conducts chemical analysis on Egyptian mummies, routine work, looking for traces of substances used in the mummification process. What they find is not routine. Cocaine, tobacco, hashish. In the hair, skin, and bone of Egyptian mummies dating from 1000 BCE, cocaine metabolites in 3,000-year-old Egyptian mummies from a plant that grew only in South America 2,500 years before Columbus. Scientists have proposed contamination, mislabeled samples, and unknown Old World coca relatives. None of these explanations have been confirmed. The cocaine and tobacco in Egyptian mummies remains in the scientific literature, replicated by independent labs, and officially unexplained. Discovery 1. The lands ox, meadows, stone carvings of chicken. Itza. No, let me be more precise. The sweet potato, the Ipomea batatas. The sweet potato, a plant domesticated in South America between 8,000 and 5,000 years ago, which somehow appeared in Polynesia, 8,000 kilometers of open Pacific Ocean away from its origin, by approximately 1000 CE, before any confirmed European contact with either region. 8,000 kilometers of open Pacific Ocean crossed 1,000 years ago, before Columbus, by people in wooden canoes. We know it happened. The sweet potato proves it happened, and the genomics confirm it. What we don't know is how far this contact extended, how many crossings occurred, what else was exchanged, and whether the cocaine in Egyptian mummies represents a similar transoceanic exchange millennia earlier across the Atlantic. These are not fringe claims. These are findings in Nature, the world's most prestigious scientific journal, and they rewrite the story of human movement across this planet in ways we are still calculating. 8 discoveries. A settlement 14,800 years old on a continent we weren't supposed to reach yet. A 5,000-year-old city contemporary with ancient Egypt. North America's largest pre-Columbian metropolis, abandoned completely without explanation. A hunter-gatherer society that built a massive earthworks complex in 90 days. Desert lines visible only from the air, drawn without any aerial perspective. Mastodon bones processed by tools 130,000 years ago. Cocaine in Egyptian mummies from a plant that only grew in South America. And a sweet potato that crossed 8,000 kilometers of open Pacific Ocean 1,000 years before Columbus. Each of these discoveries, studied individually, is interesting. Taken together, they tell a different story than the one we inherited. A story in which humans arrived in the Americas far earlier than we were taught. Built cities and earthworks of extraordinary sophistication far earlier than we acknowledged. Developed trade networks and astronomical knowledge that we persistently underestimated. And made contact across vast oceans, not once, not accidentally, but repeatedly, across multiple routes. Over thousands of years, the textbook version of American prehistory is not wrong. It is incomplete. And the physical evidence, the bones, the mounds, the sweet potato, the cocaine in the mummies is telling us that the complete version is far more extraordinary than anything we were taught. History is not a closed book. It is a book we are still learning to read. And the Americas have been adding pages we haven't found yet. If this changed how you see American history, hit like, subscribe to Axiom Void for weekly dives into the discoveries, timelines, and evidence that mainstream history is still catching up to. Drop a comment. Which of these 8 discoveries hit hardest? And what do you think we find next? Stay curious. Keep questioning everything. See you in the next one.